Recommend on all the topics enumerated in Article 279. There are so many, anything related to GST Council. It is within the domain of the GST Council to make a recommendation. Then is it obligatory? Is it obligatory on the part of the GST Council to make a recommendation on something which is related to GST Council? If not, can a state take a decision on a subject which has not been recommended by the GST Council? Or whether the recommendations of the Council are mandatory for a decision of GST? Or can any government take a decision against the recommendations of the GST Council? The Constitution Amendment Act is silent on these points, which are supposed to be very important questions. When you say that there is an agency which is supposed to make recommendations on the GST, or rather pass a resolution or recommend it, and suppose there can be cases where, suppose a question or an issue of Arunachal Pradesh or Mizoram, which is a small state, and if the GST Council doesn't consider it as very serious to take a decision on that one, can the government of Arunachal Pradesh take a decision independently without the recommendation of the GST Council? Or can big states like Maharashtra, Gujarat, etc., can they take decisions against the recommendation of the GST Council? If it takes, what will be the? Finish. Whether violations of the recommendation of the GST Council amount to dispute under Article 131? Is the dispute resolution mechanism violative of the basic structure of the Constitution? These are the pertinent questions about the GST Council which you may deliberate. Thank you very much.
Since we are running out of time, we will just be taking 3 questions.
There are special provisions for so many. So why we can't make some special provisions for these are the political disputes?
No. 262 exempts, takes away the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court as far as interwater disputes are concerned. There is no such provision.
Notwithstanding anything contained, actually there is this particular problem is there in
There is no
drafting.
specific provision in the Constitution.
So even if they have to make a law and oust the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court.
Yeah, they have not ousted it actually. I don't know, means.
Without ousting it,
probably will respond it.
this may be questioned.
No. Question of ousting Supreme Court doesn't arise. As far as what Sir is trying to explain, the whole idea is that the council is looking to everything. Just have a look at this clause 4 amendment H. It says that any other matter relating to the goods and service tax council shall make recommendation to the union and the state. If a state doesn't agree, say for example, the whole idea is that whatever law is being drafted, as it is going to be passed in the parliament and the state legislation. There will be no deviation as such. Whatever rate will be recommended, though there is a flexibility of the states playing within a certain band, but that to the council is of the view that the state should not be allowed to do that. Because the moment we allow to do it, then what will happen, the states will start deviating. As far as the GST law is concerned, the rates are concerned, everything across the country will be aligned. There is no state, there is no question of any state playing with anything. So that's the reason why even the law that is being drafted by the law committee, first it was constituted by the empowered committee and later on the GST Council has taken over, where both the center and the state, both the officers are there. Now, threadbare discussions takes place. Whatever law is getting drafted, both are contributing. From the state side, there are certain officers are there from some of the states, from the CBC officers are there from the Government of India side. So we have discussed it threadbare, and wherever any problem has arisen, we have tried to convince even the states in the law committee that see, this is what the provisions shall be, and we like it to be similar across the country. So for that matter, if I take up a GST law, a state GST law of West Bengal, or for that matter, state GST law of Gujarat, There will be no difference. That is what the council's view is. And so far, that is what the
No,
council's
sir,
decision
the
is.
council's view is accepted, but the thing is that we are questioning the validity of the council's view.
I agree, sir. I agree. That is the
Okay.
reason why I said that considering the limitation therein, that's the reason why the council has decided that we cannot deviate and we should not try to deviate. If any states deviate, then we have to see it from the council what we can do. Whether the compensation to that state can be, say, reduced or so, because if a state deviates,
In spite of that, if something happens, where will you go?
that for that matter again, if you see, I agree. That is the
So, if
reason
you look
why.
at, sir, there is a Supreme Court decision, L. Chandra Kumar versus University of
Yes,
India,
yes.
very clearly said, right of appeal cannot be taken away.
No, that I agree. That I agree.
It's a-
That I agree.
it's a-
That I agree, sir. But see what the whole idea is that since in the council all the states are present, and so far 10 meetings have taken place. In none of the decisions that the council has taken, so far
Shall I
no
stop?
voting has been done.
Yeah,
No
thing is
voting.
that, see, I just wanted to tell one thing. See, GST council is, which I wanted to tell, but I did not tell. See, GST council, as far as I analyze, I understand that. He has already said that. Because if you don't obey, we will cut this channel, we will cut this fund, we will do this. So GST council,
Behind the curtain they will do, I think.
eh?
Behind the background there is a lot
Yeah,
of.
GST council, supposed to be the conciliatory forum, is going to be a forum to manufacture the consensus through constitutional or extra constitutional methods. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Now we will be having Dr. V. Vijay Kumar, who will be discussing the dynamics of the GST and center-state relations, vis-a-vis center-state relations. Just to introduce Dr. Vijay Kumar, he is someone who is a professor of law and has had a career in academia for close to 4 decades. He's someone who has been very intrinsically associated with National Law School Bangalore and has also served as the registrar of that esteemed institution from 2005 to 2008. Sir was a visiting scholar of York University, Canada, and at its Center for Refugee Studies. In fact, sir is also he also administers the chair of the UNHCR concerning refugee laws at National Law School Bangalore. Sir, we are very happy to have you here, and we hope to learn a lot from you, considering your proficiency in different areas of law, such as administrative law and constitutional law, articles which I myself have read. Thank you so much, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. That was a good introduction. I don't know whether I can stand up to that expectation in the 20 minutes time that is given to me. I think since morning we have been hearing GST from everyone. Every sentence spoke of today has been on GST. I thought I would like to deviate a little, bring in little different perspective in understanding this GST, the way that a student of law should understand. And I sincerely feel, and I'm not hesitant in saying this, because the 5-year law course, which is supposed to be interdisciplinary in its approach, there can be no better opportunity for you to understand the implication of this particular statement, that today we are talking about GST, and that is all about economics, all about international relations, all about politics, all about history, all about governance. I think you can include anything, including technology and management of the affairs of this country in the years to come. Having said that, I should also make a mention that the GST itself was first introduced in France way back in 1954, which continues to be a unitary state even today. So now you have to make amendments to all those things if that is to be implemented in a federal state. Not that no federal state has implemented it, Canada has done it and done it even more successfully. The second important feature that we have to remember, I think, when you look at the center-state relations, that this is the first effort to bring a concurrent power to legislate on tax. If you look at list 1, 2 and 3 of the 7th schedule, the concurrent list does not have any taxing entry. Otherwise, you have to resort to 254 and all these dynamics will begin. So for the first time, I think students of constitutional law and political science must keep this point in mind. For the first time, the concurrent jurisdiction to legislate on the GST has been given under the Constitution. This is the second point that you have to keep in mind. The third point that you have to remember, the third proposition possibly that you have to remember is GST has not come into vogue just like that. Even when we started, I think the National Law School had the first meeting, national level seminar on GST way back in June 2009. We started that discussion, deliberation, and ultimately people started looking at various aspects. Finally, we also kept quiet, nothing could be done. So I think all of a sudden now we have before us the GST Amendment Act as well as the bills that are now being prepared by the Parliament. I would like to make a mention about two important articles which have never been mentioned here. Article 253 and Article 51C. Now, why all of a sudden that the government of India is thinking about GST, right? And why, not one. The first deliberation, if I just go through all of the developments very quickly and then sum up and then pose few questions for which even I may not have the answer. So as students of law, we have to try to look at these problems and try to find answers as we proceed. So 253, India has signed a series of treaties at the international level. It has an obligation, so you cannot say my constitution does not permit, so we will not have it. So they have to mend the ways, the constitution, the laws, everything need to be changed so that ultimately you discharge your international obligations as mandated under the constitution itself. It may be done in more than one way, that's entirely left to the Parliament, but I think that power is already there, and the respect that we are supposed to show has been very clearly adumbrated in Article 53, Article 51, Class C. Now, let me just begin. These are all the close observations. Let me just begin with the statement that when you speak about federalism, it is an evolving concept. You cannot say that the federalism, in whatever language we call it as center-state relations here, union-state relations or whatever it is an evolving concept. About 25 to 30 countries have this concept of federalism embedded in the constitution in some form or the other. No two constitutions are the same, are identical. So federalism is an evolving concept. It is something is very well advanced. Some constitution is backward. Some constitution persists in a different form. But all these things are possible in a federal structure. So you cannot simply argue on the basis of federal power that the state sovereignty is there. When the union sovereignty itself is not there. Today, if the Parliament of India or the government of India says, we are a sovereign country, we can kill anyone, not possible. The international pressure is so much that they have to yield to the pressures of the international community. So when the state sovereignty, the union sovereignty itself is not there, at this point of time talking about state sovereignty is only a sort of a laughing phase of development. When Tamil Nadu raised all objections to GST right from the beginning, rightly so because it's a manufacturing state or producing state, but they have all done their calculations so very well in such a manner, they also knew that they are not going to lose anything. The central government also knows very well that they need not pay any compensation because you have to see the accounts. Ultimately, then only you decide, isn't it? So these are all games that we play with numbers, but ultimately, politically, economically, internationally, we have done what we have to do in bringing out what you call it as a GST regime in the country today. Ivo Dukashek made an explanation about this. I will not refer to it. But after 47 years of his expertise in this field, whatever he said in 1968 or 70 holds good even today. And he has now expanded to such an extent that the whole arena of international relations process of globalization have everything to do with the working of a federal structure in any country. Another gentleman, another writer, Daniel Elazar, he uses the phrase that the process of globalization taking roots and affecting all countries in one form or the other, it has left immense impact on federal structures than ever before. Because you have to work not only with one government, UK is lucky, France is lucky, but when you have to work in a federal structure, the problems are much more. You have to mend all those problems, then only you can try to implement them. According to him, globalization has been the most marked in the economic sphere, allowing the development of arrangements of a political and social as well as economic character that increasingly require some kind of constitutionalization. He goes on to explain so many other aspects which I would not like to discuss. Now the initiation, or when the engine comes, there is a siren given that I am coming, and that was made very clear when Dr. Abdul Kalam took over as the president. And then when he delivered a lecture, the first presentation he made after assuming his office, this is what he had to say. This was on July 25th, 2002. So we have to collect information to find out the support or opposition for the GST. He observed, India is a union of states based on the framework of cooperative federalism. Within the cooperative framework, there is also a requirement to develop competitive strengths for the states so that they can excel at the national level and the global level. See, now he was singing a different song altogether. The states have to compete nationally and they must also compete internationally. 15 years ago or 10 years ago, when I was a student of I continued to be a student of constitutional law. When you look at it, can a state enter into a financial agreement with any other foreign state? The answer is no, they cannot. But today if you ask a question on FDI, I think what is happening in Uttarakhand today, or Jharkhand, sorry, with Dhoni's big advertisement, please come, every state is competing. I think that slogan was already sung by the president, the then president Abdul Kalam, right? They have to excel at the national level and at the global level. Competitiveness helps in ensuring economic and managerial efficiency and to be creative to meet new challenges. These are essential to survive and prosper in a fast-changing world of today. In addition, in order to strengthen democratic processes and institutions, we should all truly strive for substantive decentralization. And one among the important principles of GST is also based on how much the local self-governments will possibly get in terms of allocation. Because the first level of service provider is done by these local self-government. And to that extent, many of the state finance commissions have also made lots of recommendations, and I do not want to take your time. I think that is what I would like to briefly mention. Now, as there is no time, I am skipping a lot more things which I wanted to say, but I would like to refer to a couple of issues which I wanted to raise, and then leave it at that for us to discuss a little later if time permits. Now, when I went through this amendment, I think I have been working with Dr. Gop Kumar ever since this amendment bill was introduced, and I think he has done a wonderful job in writing a number of pieces on GST, so on and so forth. And when I used to also interact with him, and I understand certain things which I could not understand, and he has been a very good support in that regard. A couple of things which I wanted to discuss as far as this GST bill is concerned. I was quite surprised and intrigued. As a student of law once again and political science, when you take these two bills, Constitution Amendment bills, the first one and the 115th Amendment Bill, in both of them there is something called as President's Recommendation under Article 117 of the Constitution of India. I was quite amazed, surprised. I was looking at Why 117? This is possibly the first time, maybe I am wrong. I think students present here must take a project on this and do it. Whether any other previous amendment so made, the President has given his recommendation. I think somewhere the entire law department of the Government of India has failed to notice this. I would like to just read. I have the benefit of this document. It says, President's recommendation under Article 117 of the Constitution of India. The President, having been informed of the subject matter of the proposed bill, recommends under clauses 1 and 3 of Article 117, read with clause 1 of Article 274 of the Constitution of India, the introduction of the Constitution 122nd Amendment Bill 2014 in Lok Sabha, and also the consideration of the bill. I was little surprised. I looked through the provisions of the Constitution. If you carefully read Article 361, it starts with a non-obstante clause. Notwithstanding anything said in the foregoing provisions of the Constitution. So what 274 says or 117 says, I don't even have to look at them. And then comes the second one. The amendment bill can be introduced in either house of the Parliament. The President's recommendation is required for an ordinary finance bill or a money bill for introduction, not for a constitutional amendment bill. It thoroughly violates what you call it as the rights of the Rajya Sabha. I don't know why the Rajya Sabha members also kept quiet. Right? I think in politics anything is possible. But as students of law, if we don't question, particularly students of national law schools, if you don't question, you cannot ask a government law college student to understand all these implications and raise the questions. Please keep this point in mind and look at it at a later point of time to what best you can do. The second thing is about the GST Council itself. I'll come to that. I have already discussed about Article 131 and the conflict. I do not want to make much noise on that. But when you come to this council, I have in the morning session, when you mentioned that the proportion will change depending upon the number of members present at the meeting. I am little doubtful. I went through, I think they have mixed up certain phrases which should not be mixed up. And I think what they have done is in Article 279A, which they have proposed in clause 12 of this Amendment Act, 101st Amendment Act. Every decision it goes like that and goes on. And then it says all the state governments taken together. If all the governments are taken together, no proportion can change. The value of a vote cast by a state will remain as it is. What is that? I think Dr. Gopakumar has presented in his PowerPoint presentation. 66.67% of vote. And that you have to divide it by 31. Why 31? 29 states and 2 union territories having legislature. That is 31. That number comes somewhere closer to, in my calculation, I may be wrong, roughly around 2.13 votes. If one state is absent for whatever is the reason, then possibly the votes will not be reduced. I will give a logical conclusion to this argument. There are 2 members of the central government, the union government. The Minister for Finance, isn't it? There are 2 members, right?
Cabinet and one
State. If one of them is absent, will 33% come down to 16%?
I think they will get only one vote, sir.
Their cumulative weightage is 33.6%. Right? Just because one is absent, can you divide that into half? I don't think it is possible. And thereby,
They will treat it one, I think.
Huh?
Center and finance, there will be one.
One.
person.
that is what I am also saying.
For voting purpose, one.
When this observation was made, no, 33% is 1. But 2 members are present.
No.
No, still,
It was treated
it's
one.
one.
Weighted 1. That's what I am also saying. There are 31 members present here. If somebody is absent, you cannot say that it will be reduced or increased accordingly. That's the logic. I'm not saying anything. I understand that. But I'm only questioning that statement made in the morning session that this is a fluctuating majority. It cannot be a fluctuating majority. At the same time, let me also tell you, on center-state relations, this is a unique method of calculation. Why? With 33% and 66%, nobody is a winner, nobody is a loser. Because the mandate given under this article is they must have 3/4 majority, 75% of the votes. And how will you calculate 75%? This 33% must be there, and along with that another 42% you have to add. Which means that brings in lots of center-state cooperation rather than conflict. I just want you to keep this point in mind. This council brings in lots of cooperative federalism as envisaged not by a politician, not by a lawyer, but former President of India, Abdul Kalam, very clearly makes it. It brings in the cooperative spirit in the minds. Ladies and gentlemen, I just don't want to take much of your time. I would like to highlight one important issue once again. Please correct me if I am wrong, sir. The direct taxes. If Maharashtra has to claim that Maharashtra is producing lots of input in terms of direct taxes, large amount of money must